All right, welcome. Seems I was muted. Welcome. So, welcome. Please let us know where you are joining us from. As always, we are so excited to be back and to be having these conversations again. Um, Let us know where you're joining us from, the industry you're in, and as usual, what you're looking to learn today, because we believe it's an opportunity for us to learn and to grow in our different areas. So we'll get started. So hello everyone. Welcome to another session of Perspectives from Professionals. Again, I'm thrilled to be here. It's been a while. We had taken a break, but we're back. So we're thrilled to be back and be learning from the insights and experiences and perspectives of other professionals, experts, and industry leaders. So whether you're a recent graduate, a student, early on in your career, or you've advanced, we welcome you to join in the conversation and to learn and to glean from it. These sessions are designed to help you gain valuable insights to help you design a career that you love. So just in case you have not been here before and you have not been part of any of our live conversations, specifically for this segment, usually we have the privilege of hearing from what I'd like to call distinguished guests because we really value them. We really value their expertise and their experiences, and we want to glean from them. So we usually have a distinguished guest come in and share their unique perspective and experience, and we explore a range of topics. So today's topic will be on personal branding, and I'm really excited to hear our guest perspective on this, because specifically we'll be talking about personal branding earlier on in your career, and even as a student, what does that look like? So my name is Mayan Somba. I am a career development practitioner and lead career services at Career Kickstart. So I'm just going to take this moment to welcome our distinguished guest. Yeah, it's so nice to have you in the room now. I'm not as nervous. Oh
Oh,
my.
thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Marianne.
Karibu
Happy to be
sana.
your distinguished guest for
My
today.
distinguished guest, my
Yeah,
honorable guest. So
yeah.
today in the room we have Alice Ngatia. So just give a brief introduction and then allow her to say something about herself. So Alice is a seasoned marketing executive with over 18 years experience in the marketing sector, driving marketing initiatives around East Africa. But in addition to that, Alice is many things. She is also a visibility coach, a standout for growth, a personal branding fan, and I love one of the ways she describes herself. I think that for me really helped me to understand what branding is about is her merge of everything that she is. So she says that she helps brand wins in the hearts and minds of the customer. So it's not just about industrial brands and corporate brands, it's even about individuals. So, and I really love that about her. She's able to bring in all the different elements of herself in her personal brand. Yeah. So I really, really like gleaning from and learning from Alice, because I find her perspective to be one that is easily digestible by everyone. So her approach to personal branding found to be digestible for our audience at Career Kickstart, and I pray that it will be for you as well. Yes, and I think I'll allow Alice to introduce herself, say the things that I may not have mentioned. Our distinguished guest, Karibu Sana.
So thank you very much, Marianne. I think you've done a pretty good job with my introduction. The one thing that I will add is I like to say I bring brands to life. Whether they are
Mm,
corporate brands or personal brands
yeah,
or whatever it is, I always say there's an opportunity for that brand to come to life.
yeah.
And that's the one thing that I will add to your introduction. But otherwise, a pretty solid introduction. And thank you for having me here today. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alice. So I just want to dive right into it. Maybe let me give some context to this conversation. So we
Yeah.
work with a lot of young people, and my experience has been every time we talk about personal branding, the perspective on their end is that that's for people who, have 18 years of experience,
Mm.
like Alice Ngatia, or it seems so far removed from them, or if it's not something they feel that they cannot reach, they feel that probably it doesn't match their personality, that they cannot brand themselves because they have a certain personality. And I was like, I think we need to debunk what personal branding really is. And Alice and I, Stand Out for Growth and Career Kickstart, we had run a personal branding workshop, and we had tackled some of these things. And I know they'll probably run through this conversation today. So I think let's start with first things first. What is personal branding and why is it important?
So I think the one thing that I would want to start with is whether we consciously or unconsciously know it, we are building some sort of brand around ourselves. The only thing that I like to say with personal branding, what you're doing is now you're strategically driving the direction that you want people to view you, or the perception that you're building in the market. So, what is personal branding? So, from my perspective, it's about having a clear understanding of your capability as an individual, your expertise. You spoke about personality. It's also very important to have this at the back of your mind. It's good to know what kind of personality you have. Bringing all this together and presenting it to the world consistently in a way that helps them build trust around who you are and the person that you're trying to be in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's it's a journey. It's a one step at a time that you have to go slowly. And remember, as individuals, we are always evolving. We are always growing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
as you're saying, the young professionals believe it's for those guys who've done so many years in the marketplace. But even as a young professional in this, perhaps in school or something, there's some expertise that you're building. There's a bit of knowledge that you have. How are you presenting that to the world? And sometimes, even as a young professional, maybe the thing is, I don't know what I want. Maybe I studied
Yeah.
marketing, but I feel I want to go into aeronautics, or maybe I did engineering. Maybe I'm thinking, but then you can then decide what are these things that I want to showcase to the world. Maybe could be the learning journey. Maybe then your thing could be, I want to tell people that I am agile. I can easily, uh, when you drop me into any task, I can easily come up and go, you know. So you decide, even as a young professional, as much as you're saying my expertise is not there yet, perhaps you can also learn with us. Maybe how can you take us in your learning journey? Yeah. So personal branding I would say, is pretty wide, and it's something that should not be shunned on, no matter where you are in your professional, personal career.
Thank you so much for that. I like two things that you mentioned is that they can take us along that learning journey. So you may not be the expert, but you can
Yeah.
take us along, and that's part of personal branding. But I'm curious for someone who's wondering, okay, fine, I will take you along and all these things, but why is it important? Why is it important for me to have a personal brand?
Because as it is, the world is forming a perception around you, right? You just want to be able to shape the perception that is being formed.
Mm,
The mistake
mm,
we make is we wait until we are in that place where we feel we want to get to the C seat, the C level seat,
mm,
to
mm,
say, now let me form my personal brand, so that when I'm negotiating for that package, it can be as big, or as the kind of seat that I want.
yeah.
But you start now, it becomes easier, you scale faster. Some of
Mm,
us, unfortunately, got this understanding way late in our career. But I'm
yeah.
finding the young people who are more intentional in
Mm,
their journey. Like, I can
mm,
tell you, there's a 28-year-old lady
mm-hmm.
who is teaching me, because she's doing things that I was not thinking about when I was that
Mm,
age. And
mm,
she is so clear in terms of what she wants to stand for and how she wants to drive
mm,
her career. She even
mm,
calls herself a particular thing, and she says, this is how I want, even when she goes anywhere,
mm,
a meeting, when
mm,
she's meeting, say, and she's gone for these conferences, she is so clear. She teaches
mm,
things, and I'm the
yeah,
one who's on the other side, where you'd think, oh, I have all the years of experience and all.
yeah.
So no, when you start young, and why you need to start young, you need to start building that perception early. And the other
Mm,
thing is when you have that clarity and you're clear in what you want to shape yourself as,
mm,
it's easier to then be focused, yeah, as an individual.
mm,
And you'll find that that focus will always be
mm,
the driving factor for you,
mm,
which is
mm.
what you want as an individual for your own personal growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So personal branding, it really helps in propelling your personal growth journey as well.
Mm,
Something that we don't realize. And it also helps in shaping the perception so that when you're ready to finally
mm,
ask for that promotion, you don't have to
mm,
fight so hard.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay, I really like that. So it's important to shape and I like that you said that you already have a brand. So it's shaping the perception to
Yeah.
work for you. So currently, as it is, if you're not shaping it, it's probably not going to be working for you. But if you take
Mm,
the intentional step to shape it towards what you're focusing on, then it'll work
mm-hmm,
for you. So also
mm,
talking about clarity, it creates focus, and it propels your
mm,
career forward. Yeah. So I think those
mm,
are all very important things for young professionals because I think when one of the things that I have found, or that we have found working with young professionals, is that they jump out of a very cocooned environment in school and then jump into this world where there's so many alternatives, so many things it could be. And for the first 3 years, they're just almost drowning, figuring out, okay, where am I? Who am I? How comes I'm not finding roles in this area, and they're jumping from one role to another. But if they just would settle down fast and take some time to determine, okay, so who am I, what is important to me, and begin to create a focus, then eventually it pays off, which I
mm,
think is also what you're referring to.
mm.
So okay, so I know why it's important and I know what it is. Where would you recommend that specifically a graduate or someone in the early career or even a student begin
Mm.
when thinking about their personal brand?
So, okay, so you see, for a student would be different for a professional who's done some years in the workplace.
Mm,
For a student, you're probably still exploring, and for somebody in their early careers, you're probably still exploring and
mm,
trying to figure out if what I learned really resonates with what I'm passionate about.
mm,
So you've spoken about something very important, which is try and understand where you want to go, but
mm,
also what is for a younger person or for a young professional, the
mm,
passion that is behind who you are as an individual
mm,
will probably come to the fore
mm,
as you're determining
mm,
what you want your personal brand to stand for.
mm,
So let me give an example. So, for example, you were forced into medicine. You probably
mm,
have graduated with a very good grade in medicine, but you're not
mm,
passionate about it.
mm.
So that person, despite being in an early career in some attachment somewhere to studying medicine,
Yeah.
even those people who are working with that person, they'll find something is missing. Yeah. So as much as you have an idea or the vision that you want to go, but that vision
Mm,
may not be the right one for you.
mm,
So look at, okay, so what
mm.
am I passionate about? What makes me happy? Because that will then give you the drive to push forward even when
Yeah,
things are tough for
yeah.
you.
Mm,
Yeah. Then the
mm,
other thing for a young professional is having an open mind.
mm,
Because as a young professional, you're still exploring. You don't know, even if you're in the marketing field, for example, the marketing field can be as wide as from here to the end of the world. There's people who are into in digital marketing, there's people who are into experiential marketing,
mm,
there's people who want to be broad and all rounder. Yeah, so even when you're in that particular field, you have to be open minded enough to say, let me go experience what that guy is doing, what the other person is doing, so that I can then figure out where my space is. Yeah.
mm,
Now,
mm,
you cannot, and perhaps you'll spend about 3 years or so of your early career doing this. And then
mm,
after that, you should
mm,
then have some bit of clarity
mm,
on where you want to direct your career. There
mm,
you start having a good understanding of how your vision. What is that vision of yours that you want to stand with and work
mm,
towards?
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
so I hope that gives clarity from a young professional's standpoint.
Yeah, I think it does. I think maybe a follow-up question I would have to that is,
Hmm.
because you're talking about exploring, begin with exploring and like probably reflection on all of that.
Yeah.
Um, so it, so what questions am I asking myself? How am I exploring in a way that will bear fruit in terms of understanding what my personal brand is?
I think go with an open mind. There's really
Mm,
no prescribed method
mm,
to figure out what will unlock you.
mm,
You have to go with a mind to say, I've never tried that. Let's
mm,
try, see how it goes. You'll
mm,
hate it, you might find you love it. Yeah.
mm,
So
mm,
go with
mm,
an open mind just to
mm,
give yourself the allowance to even try and fail. Because there are
mm,
people who want to be perfect, even in the young early career moments. Give yourself
mm,
the permission to go try and say it's okay even if it doesn't go as planned. It's
mm,
okay even if I lose 6 months of my time. You
mm,
know, don't be, oh, I have to be 28 now, I have to be like this, 29 now, I have to be like this. No,
mm,
just allow yourself to explore
mm,
because that's the only time you'll enjoy the moment to decide whether I enjoy it or not.
mm,
Um, you can go with questions and it's okay to go with questions, but sometimes that might box you to say, I'm looking for this kind of things that tick the box, that check the
mm,
box and all. And
mm,
because it's not aligned to the kind of questions that you're looking to answer, you
mm,
then will not get to experience the fullness of the experience of the job or the people that you're working with. Yeah.
mm.
So
Yeah.
I would say an open mind is more important in that moment
Mm.
and giving yourself the permission to just dive in and see how it goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Mm.
have an open mind and ask
Mm.
yourself questions. Okay. So, based on your own experiences, because you've mentioned the your friend who is 28 and doing really well in terms of the personal
Mm.
brand, but I'm sure you've also seen the opposite. So, based on your experiences, life experiences, career experiences, what would you say are some common mistakes or pitfalls people make when first trying to establish their personal brand?
I think maybe I am the opposite. Before I got here, I think I was the opposite.
Of the
But
28-year-old.
I'm the opposite of the 20. For quite some time, I think I was the opposite of the 28-year-old. And
Yeah.
some of the mistakes I would say are like, and the one thing that I say, I like once I did my master's degree, I
Mm,
think after so much, it can really. I was doing my master's at a point when my family was coming up. So many things were coming up in my life that I vowed
mm,
never. I'm never going to learn again. I'm never going to. And that, whether we know it or not, by the way, it stagnates you. When you
mm,
don't, the one thing that I say as an individual is have a learning mindset and
mm,
be open to just in your field what's new.
mm,
Learn,
mm,
get
mm,
yourself in there. I'm not
mm,
telling you to go learn something else in a different field, but in your field,
mm,
developments are taking place. You
mm,
cannot be saying that people are discussing the hot topic today is sustainability. People are discussing sustainability today, and you're still discussing print. I don't know,
mm,
print newspaper stories. So what
mm,
is happening in your field? How are you developing yourself, right?
mm, mm,
And then the other mistake that people do is
mm,
you feel because my classmate, this person that we have grown with, we have done with, we even went to the same school, we're in the same class. I
mm,
want to be like that person. You
mm,
copycat. You want to be exactly what the other person did without
mm,
just looking in and deciding, no, me, I am different. And this is how I think I can take my career. Because
mm,
believe it or not, even twins who may have studied the same course, there's
mm,
something in them that makes them different.
yeah.
And it is that difference that makes them spark.
Mm,
It is that spark that
mm,
employers or whoever is looking to work with you will
mm,
want you to bring out or will
mm,
want you to have in the workplace because they think that that is what keeps you alive. Yeah.
mm,
When you
Yeah.
copycat somebody,
Mm,
you are trying to be like somebody else who,
mm,
and it will not work because they are the best version of themselves. You can never be the better version of them. You
mm,
have to be who you are
mm.
in everything that you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the other mistake that I think is also very important to mention
Mm,
is waiting for the perfect expertise, waiting for the perfect time to
mm,
say now is the time to build my brand. No,
mm,
don't do that. There's
mm,
no better time like today. So start now with a little or what you have,
mm,
and you'll notice building on that consistently, it'll be something nice and interesting over
mm,
time.
mm,
We tend to think, and the reason people want to think that let me wait for that particular moment, you're waiting to be that perfect person. But
mm. The
even at that,
expert. The expert.
yeah, but even at that moment when you're that perfect person, you'll
Mm,
find your needs will also be evolving.
mm,
So there's no time that you will find yourself, oh, now I've reached my peak. Never, never, ever. Even that 60-year-old person is at a point where they're thinking, I will be evolving into something else over the next year or so. So as
mm,
individuals, as humans, we are constantly changing, we are constantly evolving. So
mm,
always have that at the back of your mind that even your brand will
mm,
constantly be changing, will constantly be
mm,
evolving.
mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm.
Think of the likes of and let me mirror it to brands now, the corporate brands.
Yeah.
Even the likes of Coke, for example, that we know, they the logo that was developed years ago and the brand and the look and feel they change over
Mm,
time. They want to update it. They'll do some
mm,
subtle changes. They'll not drastically change and tell you now we are color purple. No, they have
mm,
maintained some consistency over time, but there's also
mm,
been some subtle changes over time because they
mm,
realize, oh, as times are changing, people are changing, the generations are different as you go.
mm,
And so
mm.
something about them has to be tweaked here and
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So even you as an individual, you're evolving as you grow, you're tweaking bits and pieces of yourself to make
Mm,
yourself whole, to make
mm.
yourself enjoy the time that you're in. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Mm.
don't believe that there's that perfect moment. This is the perfect moment.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree
Mm.
completely. And I think to add on to what you were talking about, the copycat, I find that if you find yourself leaning more towards, copy pasting or becoming copycat, or you're driven by what you're seeing others do, it's
Hmm.
probably a sign that you have not done enough, Ama, you haven't sat with yourself to determine, like, probably, like, who you are, where you want to go, what you want to explore, what your possible strengths might be. So it's probably a sign of that you actually haven't sat with yourself to determine these things about yourself. So that's why you're leaning more towards copying what someone else is doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
A
And then
100%. And before you proceed, I like to call that the fact that you need to go deep on yourself. I call that, or I liken that to the foundation of your house. When you're building your home, you have to go deep on your foundation. And the taller you want your house, the deeper you have to go.
yeah.
Otherwise, if you don't do that work of determining what is inside you, what makes you tick,
Mm,
that house will be tall, no matter how tall it is. It can be like 7 story, 10 story, but eventually, guess what?
mm,
It will crumble.
mm,
Eventually, something will
mm,
come, some heavy
yeah.
rainstorm, etc. will come, and it
Yeah.
will crumble. So
Yeah.
that foundation of determining who you are, what, as in just going deep on who you are, is
Mm.
extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Mm.
like that. And I think it's the same as in career development and career growth. You have to start with yourself, because if you start with what we like to call, we've just talked about the market, what
Yeah.
happens is you make choices dependent on trends, dependent on your industry, and you haven't
Mm.
done the real work. in the long term it's not sustainable because you'll
Mm.
find that at the moment that you're choosing probably that career to do, you chose it
Mhm.
probably because of the money or probably ability to be able to travel around the world, but you had not considered where your strengths lie, you had not considered where your interests lie, and in the long run those things become less of less interesting to you
They become,
because you
yes,
could. Yes,
yes. Mm,
because you can still gain the same amount of money and travel with another
mm,
job where you're really good at what you're doing.
mm,
So if you don't start with you, start with
mm,
understanding what are your values, what do you value in a work environment, what
mm.
do you value generally,
Yeah.
understanding where your strengths lie. Yeah, there's nothing as frustrating as being in a career where you are struggling with performing.
Mm,
There's nothing as terrible as that. Understanding where your skills lie, where your strengths lie, what are your interests. Yeah,
yeah.
you don't want to be be peeping out and just waiting for 5 to leave. You want to be engrossed in your work. Yeah, okay, we need to leave at 5, but to some degree, you need
That's
to
true.
have some sort of excitement to do what you're doing, regardless of the fact that you're being paid, because that's what makes it sustainable. Yeah,
And
so
what
start.
happens is when you have that understanding of even understanding what you're good at and what you even can say no to, you
Mm,
then will find even with the employers that you seek out, you'll be seeking out employers that are aligned to your who you are as a person or to your vision or to your
mm,
purpose and to what you're passionate about.
mm. Yes,
And so
yes,
that
yes.
thing of even looking at the clock or
Mm,
somebody calling you and you're looking at the phone and thinking, ah, of course, there's
mm,
some extent that you don't want to go to, but half the time you'll find yourself in a space that you're enjoying where you're
mm.
at. Because
Yeah.
we spend so much of our time with our employers, right?
Mm,
So,
mm,
how sad would it be if
mm,
there's no real connection between what
mm,
your employer is doing and
mm,
what you want for yourself as an individual?
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, in agreement, 100%. So we've looked at what it is. We looked at all these different things, but I want to start. What do I need to do? Like practically, what does now the building the brand look like practically?
So we've kind of touched on most of it. The
Mm,
first one is you need to ask yourself as an individual, where do you want to go?
mm,
Now, where do you want to go speaks to your vision, speaks to your passion.
mm,
And if you're able to add a bit of purpose to your vision, well and
mm.
good for you. And sometimes I always say purpose doesn't have to be, oh, I want to go, that Mother Teresa kind of passion, oh, I want to be the one
Yes,
helping the community. No,
yes,
you can
yes.
find purpose in your professional slash business. For those guys who are stepping into the business world, you can
Mm,
find purpose and meaning into that. And then once you ask yourself, where do you want to go? Look at where are you currently? Now, this is
mm,
where you assess some of the things that you were talking about. You look at your own yourself, do your
mm,
own SWOT analysis. You look at the people that you want to serve. Are
mm,
you and them? How do you feel you connect with them? Do you
mm,
feel there's some synergies with them? Because sometimes you don't want to be serving people that you feel are draining energy from you because something about you
mm,
is not connecting with them. Yeah, so
mm,
you need to understand who is that person that I need to be speaking to, and then you
mm,
need to understand where are my peers. Yeah, peers from a professional perspective could be the guys that you studied with, or in the same kind of career journey with, or in the same
mm,
space with. Like
mm.
imagine if you're called to an interview room today, the kind
Yeah.
of people you'll be seated next to, those would be your peers, right?
Mm,
So what would
mm,
differentiate you from your peer? Where are you currently in respect to your peer? And
mm,
then once you figure that out, once you see what your peers have, what your audience needs, what you have as an individual, then
mm,
then you need to work on what needs to be addressed.
mm.
In what needs to be addressed, you need to look at your skills, your expertise. Do a
Yes.
skill audit.
Mm,
Because when you are looking at where you want to go, you
mm,
looked at what is needed to get there. So when you're looking at your skill for now, what do you have now? What do you need to get
Mm,
there? What are the steps I need to take to get there? So you need to
mm,
undertake a good skills audit for yourself. And
yeah.
that's where the always learning mentality comes into play. Yeah. So with a
Mm,
skills audit, that's a must. You must do that, and
mm,
you must work
mm,
towards that. And
yeah.
then you
Yeah.
also have to check out your visual appeal. Now you
Mm,
cannot say my audience is me. I'm a consultant, and I want to sell my services to auditors. And then you want to go dress like a designer would. Designers are kind of easy, relaxed with jeans,
mm, mm,
and you're going to sell your business to, maybe you're actually, let's say you're an auditor selling your business to uh, financial managers or finance managers in companies. Now, if you
mm,
go to that meeting dressed in some nice, most expensive perhaps, I don't know, the best t-shirt,
mm,
casual, and jeans,
mm,
it'll take a bit more effort from your side to convince the guy on the other end of the table that I
mm,
can deliver. Yeah.
mm,
So
yeah.
you want to also work on your visual appeal. And here we
Mm,
are not saying that you have to be all in suits. We're just saying based on your journey or based on
audience,
what you
yeah.
want to do and your audience, what
Mm,
would they look for them to believe in who I am? And
mm,
then also your personality is important, because
mm,
if you're an introvert versus an extrovert, you need to understand then how do you treat yourself.
mm,
Say if you're out there, if you're engaging with customers, an introvert would do it differently and an extrovert would do it differently. Yeah.
mm,
Because there's space for you all, both of you, the introvert, the extrovert, in
mm,
developing your brand, and you must. Yeah.
yes,
And then only then, once you have figured out what needs to be addressed and you have a roadmap as to how you are going to work towards the gaps,
yes,
then you can go and start showcasing your brand. And
mm,
then you start offline as you move off online. Yeah. Because
yeah,
online is a must. We're in a digital world today. So online is a must. Then you have those strategies that you need
mm,
to start going and getting people to understand who you are. Yeah. So that's when you can now start shouting, hey, I'm Alice. I build brands. Yeah.
yeah,
So, but before the questions that I've asked are done, if you just quickly move to the end or to the strategies, or, oh, me, I want to start speaking about X, then it becomes like a crumbling house, a house that we're waiting to crumble over
mm,
time. Yeah.
yeah.
So before we get to the end, let's do the base work first.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. So you start with the base work, the groundwork, which is understanding yourself, understanding what spaces you want to be in, understanding what your values are and everything. Then understanding your audience, like the people you want to serve, who are they, what your audience, what do they need, how
Mm,
who are they basically, and then I'll go into offline and then online branding. Let me go back to offline branding, because interestingly it's not talked enough as much as online. So what does offline branding look like, personal branding look like?
And in fact, do you know what I tell people? By the way, by virtue of you or me talking to you and working with you on personal branding, it doesn't mean I'm pushing you towards online. By the way, you can be working on your brand as an individual, and because I've worked with people who have never gone online, and to date I still push them because I believe online is the way to go. But they've never gone online. But I've also seen strides in what
Mm,
they're making. So
mm,
offline branding looks like, are there communities that you ought to be involved in? So, for
mm,
example, as a marketer, or actually most professions, they have their own communities that already exist, and they
mm,
do activities. How are you, or are you active in those communities? So you have to start building communities with which you want to be visible. Yeah.
mm,
So
mm,
if you look at your vision, and your vision is to be the best expert in industry X,
mm,
look at the communities in that industry and start figuring out, how do I create my space there? How do I start getting myself known there? Yeah. And then you need to start when you're in that space, because of course you can't be in that space doing nothing, you have to be in that space being of service to those in your community. Now, service, and I underline that being of service doesn't mean you have to go ask for paid opportunities. Yeah.
Mm,
It just means you need to start showing your value to those guys or to the people that you want to be a community of.
mm,
Uh, you need to show them, I can do this for you. I and add value in this way. If it's an activity, and sometimes you will find yourself in professions that don't necessarily have professional uh, professional groups,
mm,
but you can then find community groups that are aligned to, say, your service kind of personality. So like the way the Rotary is inclined towards service to the community, perhaps then you could consider joining a community around that perspective, and
mm,
then not just be a lay member, be an active member to show that you can offer value and service to that community. So that's how I would say start with the offline, by doing that offline. And you'll be
mm,
amazed that sometimes, because it's that community. Remember, people, we love to interact with people. Nobody interacts with some amorphous item
yes,
behind
yes,
who you are. People
yeah,
love to interact with people. So
yes,
you'll find that the offline propels you faster sometimes than the online. Yeah. The
yeah,
online, what online does, it helps you scale and grow. And but your offline, if you have people who can vouch for you offline, and this is through those communities that you need to start building, the credibility around you will, nobody can dispute it, because you'll have mini yous out there speaking for you just because they've experienced your brand in some
mm,
place offline.
mm,
You
yes,
you can't say, these keyboard warriors, this generation of today, we want to be online, everything is online, so let's be keyboard warriors and do all the best we can. No. If you want to even cement it, what offline does, it cements what you're going to do online. So coordinate and align both as
mm,
you're building your brand.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think what I like most about like what you've mentioned is because you've mentioned a word credibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's important to emphasize the importance of credibility because in this virtual world, it's very easy to build a persona that is
Mm,
very different from the on the ground, real experience. You've had people who have like probably what people would term as very big brands, but when you meet people who've interacted with them physically or offline, they're like, that person, no,
mm,
run for your life,
mm.
So you want to build credibility. So it's not just painting the house.
Yes.
Like if I was to use Alice's analogy, it's not just about
Mm,
painting pretty colors, having the nicest finishings. It's
mm,
about making sure your pillars are sturdy, your foundation is laid down great. So that even when someone is coming in, that as they're seeing the paint and the finishings, the house is actually standing. It's not going to crumble on them.
yeah.
Yeah. So making
Yes.
sure that through skill and what you're doing, that you're good at it, and that's where you're doing the upskilling and finding the gaps. But also character is very important. How are you treating people? How are you working with people? So it's a merge of
Mm,
two. So if you're able to make sure you solidified on that end, then everything else you do to add on to
fall
it will
into
make it
place.
even more. Yes, it will fall into
Mm,
place. Yeah,
mm,
yeah. Awesome. So I had a question for you as you're speaking.
mm.
I knew I should have written it down. I knew I should have written it. I have forgotten it. I have forgotten, but I will.
It
I
will
will.
come. It
It
will
will
come.
come.
It will come.
So I think you've kind of answered it. My other question for you was why do you think personal branding recently has been like there's been such a heavy emphasis on it? I don't think like when I was in campus I had a lot about personal branding. Even the earlier years of my career,
Yeah.
it sounded like things like Akina Jeff Bezos, the big shots
Mm.
do. But it seems like recently there's been like a really huge push for people at every level where personal branding is considered. Why do you think that is?
I honestly think it's because right now there's scarcity of everything. The job market is extremely saturated.
Mm.
Uh, Business, if you're to start a business today, there's probably 10 of you thinking the same kind of idea. So
Yes.
it's extremely saturated. And the only way as an individual or as a person you can then stand out is to have something that you're showcasing to the world that, hey, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is what I can do for you. Yeah. And that's why then it becomes important to start building your personal brand, or why it's getting so much traction nowadays, and why everybody's saying build a brand, build a brand, build a brand.
Mm.
And if I'm to borrow even what happens in the corporate business, the
Mm.
businesses that have taken the time to advise and inform and just grow their brand and show their customers, hey, this is who I am. And they repeat it to us every day in, day out. If I'm to go back to that Coca Cola that I mentioned earlier, Coca Cola, every Christmas, they will, and we drink Coke. Most chances are every Sunday, perhaps when you're treating your family, Coke will be on the table. But somehow they will still remind us with some nice, fluffy ad over Christmas, hey, drink Coke. This is who we are. Because what do you want? You just want people to remember you. They may not buy now, but when they are ready to buy, who comes to mind?
Mm.
You.
Mm.
So personal branding, same thing. And with a saturated market, 8 billion people in the world, even if you're to say, no, 8 billion is too many, let's just say there are how many marketers? Let's just go to the profession that I'm in. You know, if you go to that profession you're in, how many guys were you with in class? Start from there. Yeah, were you by yourself? I don't think so. So use that, build a brand, remind us when we are ready to buy. Guess who comes to mind? The person who worked at building the brand.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100. And I think for me, it's also been like sort of experience for me. It's about the consistency of saying the same thing, even my own, because I also have my own brand, that I'm
Mm,
working on building. It's about the consistency, and like you're saying, when they're ready to buy, when they're ready to hire, when they're ready to promote, when they're ready to consult, they will remember you. So sometimes it might look futile what you're doing,
mm,
engaging in the communities, sharing your insights and thoughts, connecting with your peers or thought leaders. It may look futile, but one thing that I have learned is that people are watching.
yeah.
And not all of them will engage with you, but they are watching. And when they're ready, they will buy. That's very
And
true.
and when you say that, it's interesting when you say that, because sometimes, like even when I post content, um, there are times I will skip. There's a time I was extremely consistent with a newsletter that I was producing, and was extremely, people knew that this is what they would expect from me. And then these
Mm,
weeks I would skip. And the people who would come into my inbox and tell me, by the way, Alice, where are you? Where is this? We're waiting. Where is it? Are people who never even publicly
like,
acknowledged that I was
yeah,
writing anything. And I was like,
yeah,
what? So,
yeah,
yes, as you're saying, people are watching. They may not acknowledge you, but people are watching, and they are forming perceptions of you. They are
yeah,
forming perceptions of what you are telling them. Yeah.
mm,
So, very important to
yeah,
to 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 build up that consistency that you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. And that's both online and offline. So wherever you're working, know that people are watching, whether it's your manager, the manager's manager, you don't know who is watching. So you have to be consistent. I remembered my question.
Yes.
And my question was around, how do I know my brand is working?
Um, I guess an example like the one I've given you, because you'll meet people and you'll say, "Oh, by the way, I read something about you." Because it's true, I've met people who in most random of places, and they tell me, "Oh, by the way, I read that about you.
Mm,
I had this." Or you'll be called by somebody, I was referred to you by somebody because I had you do this. The thing is, for it to get to that level, consistency is very important. You have
mm,
to build it consistently, right?
mm,
You have
mm.
to go, you just don't do it now and expect that now
Yeah,
people know about me. In
yeah.
fact, it is said, or there's somewhere that I read that said, a minimum of 7 times do people want to hear from you before they finally say, now I get it.
Everybody,
As in,
yes.
now I get it. Not even, I'll remember you. Now I get it.
Mm,
So just think about it that way. So
mm,
build the consistency, and then eventually you'll get moments of, yes, can I do this with you? Others will
mm,
call you and say, okay, now I'd like you to come do this. And perhaps even open up paid opportunities that you had not thought about
mm,
because they see something else that you probably had not envisioned for yourself.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very, very true. So let's get now into the tools. So there's so many tools that you can use to brand yourself, so many different platforms and all of that. As a graduate emerging professionals, what are some venues, platforms that I can use to brand myself online now? I'm good on the
Online.
offline. Online, yeah.
So online, if you're a business person, you're stepping into the world of business, look at where your audience is. And if you're in selling, say what can I say? You could be selling what? Hair products, handbags, or whatever it is that you want to
Mm,
start getting yourself in business in, and you
mm,
want to showcase yourself as a more stylish person. So hence the reason why they should buy from you when
mm,
they're buying those handbags or wigs or whatever. Then you look at where your audience is, and chances are that audience probably might be on Insta or these other social channels. But for us business people, for us people who are seeking to build our careers in the professional landscape, the best social media channel that I would advise for you, advocate for you to go and start and do something about now, if you haven't, is LinkedIn. Yeah. It's a good professional networking website. It's a
mm,
good place to even just learn. If
mm,
nothing else, the learning that you do from the people that are there, because there you get people who have 20 years of experience, and you also get people who have 2 years of experience.
mm,
Those guys, irrespective of which side of the spectrum they're in, they have
mm,
something to teach you. So
mm,
it's a fertile learning ground for any professional out there. So start with LinkedIn, build a professional profile there. Do the things that you need to do. Of course, as you open your page, it will prompt you on how you need to go, what you need to fill out. Just how do you showcase yourself in a way that you look like, hey, trust me. That is part of the visual appeal, that professional page that you're gonna look at. So that visual appeal, as people land on your professional page, on your online page, build it in such a way that tells them, hey, I'm the person that you need to work with. Yeah. I'm the person
mm,
that I know I can bring the difference to your space. So work
mm,
with me. Yeah. So
mm,
build that
yeah.
profile in a way that builds the trust that you want your audience to have in you.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And even before we get a bit deeper into LinkedIn, because I know between personal branding and networking, there's a lot of interconnections. In your view, what comes first, networking or personal branding? And once you answer that, how are they connected?
So personal branding comes first. Because as you're networking, as you're going to the places that you're going, who will you be telling people you are if you've not figured it out yourself? Because
Yes,
then you'll end up going to define yourself as, I'm Alice, wife to Nani. Then who is,
yes.
maybe the other person is remembered more than you. Or I'm
Mm.
Alice,
Nani.
I do this.
Yes.
No. So start with personal branding so that you have a clear definition, or people, when you're telling people this is who I am and this is what I stand for. Because one of the outcomes of building a personal brand is having your USP. What is your unique value that you bring
Mm,
into the table? Yeah.
yeah.
Once you define that unique value and it's clear on you, it's that will be able to spark an interest on somebody, and they'll say, interesting, tell me more about yourself. And then you
Mm,
can be able to tell your story. Now, if you go networking without a clear definition of what you want or what your story is all about or what you want to bring to the table, you're
mm,
almost like wasting networking opportunities. Just stay home and watch some Netflix.
mm,
Because
mm.
chances are those people will not remember As in, what?
Or
Actually,
even you will
let
have
me remember you guys.
you will have them have a wrong perception of you,
Yeah,
and
or
then
even that.
correcting it becomes hard.
It becomes too much work. Just stay home,
Yeah,
watch Netflix if you haven't figured out your
yeah,
brand, but
yeah,
start with your personal brand
yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
And
mhm.
and now, as even as you're going out, networking is one of the ways, eh? But you also have to, I always say you need to sharpen one of two of three things. You either sharpen your networking and you sharpen your writing
Mm,
and or sharpen your speaking. So two of the three will work for you. Yeah.
yeah.
So because when you go out there or when you're networking is more one to one, engaging, etc. When you're sharpening your writing, you're able to even figure out how to even communicate to people, not just in the office, because you have to be writing in the office, whether it's email or proposals or whatever. But even
Mm,
in the online world, you're expected to write your post. You're not going to pick a copy paste of a quote somewhere day in day out, and you expect us to feel who you are. And speaking also, speaking can be so speaking. That's it's either of the two of the three.
mm,
Because if you're not a writer, then you could be a speaker. A
mm,
speaker translated to the online world could be the guy who just loves communicating via videos. Yeah.
mm,
You'll
yeah.
be the person who can never write, but you'll come online, remove one, two nuggets on video, and it still tells us the message that you want to tell us. So
Mm,
sharpen two of the three. So your brand comes first, and then you sharpen two of the three to help you market your skills.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that question was kind of reverse engineered
Mm,
from experiences I've had, yes, with clients. But let me, I've
mm,
even just remembered one of my
mm-hmm.
own,
Fast.
where
Yeah.
earlier on when I was building my brand, I think because it was changing a lot at the beginning,
Mm.
I fumbled. I remember I fumbled a really big opportunity for myself, and up to
Yeah.
today, I remember it.
Okay,
So
tell us about it.
I don't know if I want to. Let me just say I was not
Mm.
prepared for the conversation. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just one of those days when you're like, you have a meeting at this
Yeah.
time, and
Mm.
this person is a really influential person and they have the power to do a lot of things,
Yeah.
but you don't set aside time to prepare for it, to align yourself with, okay, why do I want to have this meeting with them? Remind
Mm.
myself, okay, why am I in this space? Because some of these things, I tell people that advocating for yourself is not natural. it's
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 not.
not natural for most people, at least. Yeah,
Mm.
it's something
Mm.
that you have to, it's a skill you have to build. So that's why interviewing is hard. That's why public speaking is hard for a lot of people. It's because it's a
Mm.
skill that you have to build. So I made the mistake of not preparing and not aligning myself with what my objectives and my values were, and because of
Mm.
that, in the conversation I just fumbled myself. One day I will
Mm.
make it up, I don't know, but yeah. Yeah.
And people can see through that, by the way, when that confidence is not showing. So when you've thought through who you are, there's some confidence that comes with it because you're
Mm.
clear with what you want. Now, when that confidence is not there, people can somehow read. They see
Very
it in
true.
you. They're able to like peer, and those are the moments you feel like somebody's piercing through my heart and then my
Very
eyes. Their
true.
eyes are coming through.
Yes.
And I think that thing for advocating for yourself, you know what I think personally? I think it's our upbringing as Africans.
Very true.
We were
I
brought
agree.
up where you're told by your folks when adults are speaking, you do what? You hold your mouth. There's nothing important you can say in front of people. Now you
Mm.
will never have the courage to go out or to speak something in front of an audience because you were always told in front of
Mm.
people, do what? Shut up, keep quiet.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's almost like we were being told you have nothing of value to add. So that kind of so and this thing of, especially when us guys were growing up, I think the kids nowadays might have a different experience. Eh? But
Mm.
even then, authority, in front of authority, you're told, no, authority should be treated like this. So you have this like almost military view of them of the authority that is ahead of you. And when you
Mm.
have that military view of authority, you will not
Mm.
want to speak
Mm.
lest you say
Mm.
something that will upset the authority. And
Mm.
God forbid you be chased out of the scenario. But what happens? Half the time, nothing happens. You fumble, what happens? You pick up your pieces, people will have forgotten 2 days later, and you move on with life. Yeah.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
think our African upbringing has some sort of i- um, backing as to why we are the way we are, and you have to cultivate. And it'll be hard. It'll
Yeah.
be unnatural at the beginning, but then it'll be extremely
Very
unnatural.
unnatural. Yes.
But you have to keep at it. You have to keep at it. Try, fumble, mess, go, go, go. As you go, it'll become better, and you'll
Mm.
be proud eventually of that. You'll have found the route that you want. I mean, the way that you want to sell yourself out there.
Yes, yes, I
Yeah.
100% agree with you. I think a lot of us struggle with that because of our culture and our upbringing. Even our school, even our
Of
schooling, we are
course. Yeah.
just groomed or cultured to just receive information and do the work and put our heads down. But
Mm,
I think one thing that you realize very fast in the world of work, in the corporate world, in business world, is that those who are ahead are not necessarily those ones that not necessarily the ones who are best at what they're doing. They're the ones who are visible and
mm,
consistently visible. It's just the
mm,
reality of the way the world works. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. So, oh my God, it's almost that has been such an engaging conversation. It's almost 8 now,
Yeah.
and we want to make sure we close on time.
Mm.
Um, so let's go back to LinkedIn. So beyond having an optimized profiles, how would you suggest that a new professional grow their network and amplify the brand? The brand. What tactics do you recommend?
I think the most important is content. You want to sharpen yourself
Mm,
so that whatever you're putting out is something that would uh, make you, of course, believable and credible. Have a clear understanding of what you want to stand for, as I mean, what you want the world to see as the expertise you want to showcase in the world.
mm,
So content is, for me, I always uh, rate content as number one, and this is important whether you're online or offline, because even in the offline world, I always say be visible. If you're in a space, maybe try and ask a question and all. But imagine those people who have raised their hand to speak, or even come to your have even come to your comments. They've put in
mm,
sometimes you've read a comment and you're like, why is this person asking this? Have they not read what the person posted up there? So can you show a bit of thought into everything that you are doing, into everything that you're posting for the
mm,
world, whether it's through whether it's how you're engaging with other people? Because I
mm,
always say, it doesn't necessarily mean content means what you're posting on your feed. Content is also what you're posting on other people's content. If you're engaging with my content through the comments,
mm,
how is that bringing you out? Because sometimes that can either make or break you. Yeah.
mm,
What
mm,
tone are you even adopting as you're bringing that out? Because you have to be respectful. You can disagree with me, by the way, but it has to be in a respectful manner. Yeah.
mm, mm,
And actually, let me just give a tip that I always say with content, because there's many places we can find content. You can find content on blogs, but there's one hack that I don't think many people have discovered, and it's simply Google. We all use Google to search. Yeah.
mm. Yes.
If you want to find the latest news, say around digitization, maybe what has been
Mm,
posted around digitization today, we all go to if you go to Google right now, you'll
mm,
the two default places will be the tab that searches the results, that gives the results, and perhaps the images if you're looking for an image. But
mm,
then there's a tab up there. There's more tabs up there. There's one that's called news. News will specifically give you uh, news related to that topic that you've searched.
mm,
So there, what does that do when you post a news item that is up to date around an industry or a topic that you're interested in? Shows that
mm,
you keep up with the times. Yeah. It shows that
mm,
you know what's happening in the industry. I'm not those people who just sit here and wait for things to pass me. I keep up with what is going ahead of me. Yeah.
mm,
So that's just an interesting tip around your content that you can take home from this call today. Yeah. So
mm,
my number one and my most important tip, even before, LinkedIn is giving us features. Nowadays they have so
mm.
much features that in every other day they're improving. Even before
Yeah.
you go to going deep into the features that you have. Find a way of refining your content. Look for places that will make your brand look good by what you're sharing. Yeah.
Thank you. I like that tip. I might just steal it. I think one
Yeah,
feature that I
really.
really, I
Mhm.
think one feature that I really like from LinkedIn of late is collaborative articles,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think one they give you an opportunity for you to think through important topics in your field and also explore what your perspective is and kind of defend your perspective, but also they help you to network with people from around the globe because you have different people contributing to the articles, but as well they give you visibility. So every time that you
Mm.
contribute to a collaborative article, LinkedIn will share that with your followers or your connections, which I really like. Yeah, yeah. All right, so I'm going to just read two questions that I have here. Is it just, I think I'll read one because of the time,
Mm.
um as we are closing. And the question is around oh yes, how do I build my brand if I'm an introvert?
So we said one of two things. At least let's do one of two things. Even an introvert should do one of two things. An introvert, chances are you'll find yourself more of a writer than a speaker. But then in the networking space, because you have to do one of two. So you see when you take the writing angle, in the networking space, then you know at which point does my energy go down. So if you go to a networking event, you'll probably not be the person who will want to interact with people in a group of 10 and everybody's shouting or saying their story in turns and probably bantering each other. You'll probably be the person who wants to find the one person that you feel you connect with. And you want to perhaps be the person who you will want to see it, engage, and go deep with that person. So your networking style will be different, but you must do it. Just do it.
Yeah,
But find
yeah.
what works for you. And then you will find an introvert will be the person who will prefer to go to a space and they'll put a timer on themselves, a virtual mini internal timer to say, they will not stay to the end. An introvert will probably stay till an hour. They'll say, my clock ticks in. By 1 hour, my jar has gone down, the sand in my hourglass has gone down. I have no energy left for people in this room. But maybe my one achievement is I'll have found Alice or I'll have found Marianne. We sat, we chatted, we interacted, we got to know each other. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah,
at least as an introvert, still, you must do your one of two.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Now
like that.
find what works for you. As in how will I bring it out so it works for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one of that's networking, speaking, and writing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So to close, what are two or three? Okay, not to close. The closing is for this.
Mm.
What is one or two things that tangible that a new professional can do in, let's say, this week to start their personal brand? What is one or two things that they can do that is tangible this week to build a brand that you
Number
suggest?
one, find your community. In
Mm,
fact, right after this call, Google whatever community that you must be a part of and give yourself 1 year to have made some sort of significance in that community, such that you'll either be reaching out to them to help them, you'll probably be either a committee member or something. Give yourself a period of time within which in that community you've made your service of significance. Yeah. So the first thing that you must do, find your community. The second thing that I want you to do as a young professional is, as you're growing, try and figure out your area of expertise that you start telling us or teaching us about. And don't be afraid that people will not agree with your views. And in fact, if people are always agreeing with your views, probably you're not telling us more of who you are. You're not giving us the meat of who you are. Eh? So don't be afraid that disagreements will abound or come because of what you're saying. Say it, but mind how you're saying it. Be respectful in how you're bringing out, especially if you feel you're bringing out topics that, you're bringing out a view that might not be in agreement with what the rest of the world thinks. But then I always say, when you're building a personal brand, there's three things that you have to stay away from. Stay away from politics, stay away from, because those are very heated, emotional, not that they're bad. And well, unless you're, I guess, becoming a politician, but then a politician has a different route of way that they need to build their their brand, but there's
Brand,
politics
yeah.
that's very polarizing.
Mm,
There's religion that's extremely polarizing, and
mm,
there's issues to do with sex and all those things, right?
yeah.
Because right now it's a very, you can be he, she, they, so stay
Mm,
away from those three general topics as an individual. Focus on what your expertise or what you want to be known for,
mm,
or even as a young person, assuming you haven't figured out your area of expertise, maybe focus on the soft skills that you think I'm strong at, and this
yes.
is what I want to educate people around. So
Mm,
find that one thing that you can start teaching us. Even
mm,
us old dogs can learn from you.
mm,
I said I'm learning from a 28-year-old
mm,
individual. So
yes.
old dogs can learn new tricks. Don't
New
assume
tricks.
that you have nothing to teach. And if
Mm,
nothing else, even if the old people don't find your content useful, the person below you, there's always somebody younger than you in your career journey is learning from you.
mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Alice. Last one, and I'd like to end
Mhm.
with this one. If you were to give one key piece of advice, and this can do with personal branding or anything else, to a new professional, even maybe a student, a graduate, concerning the career journey, what would it be?
It'd probably be a quote that I like using, saying the world favors the visible. So start now. It's never too early. Don't be afraid. Don't wait for the perfect moment. There's no better time than today. You will
Mm,
refine as you go. Even
yes.
that person who is old and refined and experienced in their career, they
Mm,
themselves are growing into something new, into something different. So start
yes.
with what you have, build, and you'll be amazed with what years, months of consistency will do for your personal brand.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alice,
You're
for
welcome.
allowing us to draw from your insight, from your expertise.
And
The
thank
world
you very much for having me.
Thank you. The world favors the visible. That is the take
Yes,
home. The world favors the visible. Yeah. So as we wrap
yeah.
up our session, I would like to share that Alice does have a course on this on Udemy, very well priced, very graduate student friendly. And on top of that, she's giving Career Kickstart community a code,
Mhm.
a discount code for that. So we're going to be sharing the link on just down here in the comments. But if you want the code itself, just message us and we will share with you the code. Thank you so much, Alice. We were just extending that offer to us. We thank you so much because obviously the topic of personal branding cannot be handled in one
Yes,
in a 1 hour session. Yes, and you as
yes.
you go back and you begin to chew on what we've talked about, the different
Mm,
highlights, the different strategies, techniques. It's good to just have her alongside you or have her speak alongside you as you're
mm,
going through the course. I really, really recommend it. And we've, like I said, we've worked with her in a personal branding workshop, and it was amazing. It was really amazing. So thank you so much again for joining us today in this episode and edition of Perspectives from Professionals. I hope you leave feeling fulfilled, inspired, and empowered to design a career you love. Thank you so much. Good night and God bless.
thank you, Marianne.
Thank you.